Greetings all, this is Hairy Nick, and we're back into it. We're going to talk about some more costings for X-Wing 2nd Edition. In case you guys missed the first video, I basically started doing this, and it turns out I had a lot to say, and I'm actually going to have to divide this up into 4 parts. So we're going to do one video for each faction, talking about all the costings of the pilots and the upgrade cards and all that kind of stuff, and also one more video for the generic cards. Because, as we can see on the screen in front of us, everything was revealed today. All the initial costings for every pilot and upgrade card for X-Wing 2nd Edition. So without further ado, let's dive right into it with the Alpha Class Starwing. And right off the bat, this is a bit surprising actually. I spoke in the first video a bit about how the more important initiative is, the more of a curve they tend to cost things on. That mainly is on Ace platforms. So things that don't worry about arc dodging and that kind of stuff, things that are more Alpha Strike platforms don't worry about that kind of stuff, like the Alpha Class Starwing. To the point where the points band between the lowest and highest pilot is only 6 points, which is very, very narrow indeed. In fact, if I just bring up Major Vinder, for example, in first edition, he costed a relative 52 points. However, the new Squadron pilot cost a relative 36 points. So you can see how the new Squadron pilot is basically the same cost, but Major Vinder has come right down. That points band is really, really tight. The reason for that is because in the meta, we pretty much only ever see these generic pilots getting flown. The power in this ship is not in the pilot abilities or the initiative, it's just in the ship itself. Also worth noting, the configurations are free, which we'll talk about in a tick when we get down the page. So yes, a very subtle point reduction across the board, but a major point reduction on the higher end of the pilot spectrum, which is cool. Maybe this will be enough to see Major Vinder and Lieutenant Kasabi see play. We'll see what happens there. Let's move on to the Lambda class shuttle, and again, very similar thing happened. The more expensive pilots have become relatively cheaper. Now, the Omicron group pilot, which was previously 42 points, is 43 points, so just a subtle change again. One more point doesn't really make much of a difference when list building. But Captain Kargi used to be 54 points, relatively speaking, and now he is 48 points, a reduction of 6 points overall. And once again, the points band between all the pilots is very low. It's only 5 points from Omicron group pilot to Captain Kargi. And considering these pilots have actually got a decent upgrade in terms of their pilot ability, things that seem very relevant when we're talking about commander style builds where you have like your Tarkin, your Palpatines, all those kind of big support roles. Having all of these pilots have a relevant ability on a pretty competitively costed frame, where you're not really paying much for those pilot abilities, seems very, very strong. And I was speaking before how we have these faction archetypes, and how things are costed really tells you how much FFG are trying to push these things. And yeah, that crew commander archetype on the Empire is very, very prevalent here. Apart from that, no change in the upgrades and no talents remain on the Lambda class shuttle. Let's move on to the TIE Advanced Prototype, or the TIE Advanced V1 as it's referred to in the game now. The Grand Inquisitor has gone from 50 points to 58 points, and the main reason for that is he has Force tokens. Also, his ability's gotten a little better as well. In fact, it's very difficult to compare the costings of the old TIE Advanced Prototype pilots to the new one, because we're talking about Force tokens, and that in itself comes with a pretty hefty cost. Probably the most relevant thing to happen here is the points difference between Inquisitor and Baron of the Empire, the two generic pilots, one of which has Force upgrades, one of which has regular talents. It costs 6 more points to invest in a pilot of the same initiative, but instead of talents has Force upgrades in Inquisitor. And I think it makes perfect sense. Force upgrades seem to be something which carries a bit more weight in terms of the power of those upgrades. It is worth noting for the time being, I don't think there's really any Force upgrades that really, in my eyes, make this very desirable. I think as more stuff starts to come out and we see more Force upgrades, Inquisitor is always going to be the one we look back on and go, oh, okay, can this work with this? Can this work with this? Force upgrades are a new thing. There's only 4 of them in the game right now, and I get the impression that FFG just want to slow roll this out as they introduce a new concept. It is worth noting, at 40 points, you cannot take 4 of these guys with supernatural reflexes. Supernatural reflexes is 12 points. I predicted this would be very expensive. It's a very, very powerful ability, so we're not going to see it across 4 different platforms. Having said that, it's at 52 points, and that still seems quite desirable. Maybe you take 3 of them and a cheaper guy, maybe 3 Inquisitors and a Baron of the Empire with a cheaper talent instead. That could still be pretty potent. I think having that ability across 3 Inquisitors, despite the fact you can't quite fit in the 4th one, is going to be very, very potent. And the fact of the matter is they can still go on the Grand Inquisitor for a total of 70 points. Yeah, these guys look so, so good. Supernatural Reflexes is going to be an insane upgrade, even at the 12-point mark. Oh, and speaking of Force users, here's the TIE Advanced X1. Darth Vader cost 70 points. Now, Darth Vader previously costed 29, so that's 58 points. So an increase of 12 points. Now, the new Darth Vader ability is fantastic. He has Force tokens. Again, that's going to carry a bit more weight in the costings. Yeah, but 70 points, that's a lot. Let's not beat around the bush there. Basically, I'm looking at Darth Vader and thinking, okay, look, if you can get like 1 or 2 very affordable upgrades on him, maybe he will be okay. I look at him very similar in the way I look at Luke. And I'm a bit more confident about Luke, if I'm to be honest, but yeah, with Darth Vader, you can chuck on afterburners and that kind of stuff, can get a lot of efficiency. There's a lot of stuff he can do. Whether or not that really demands 70 points remains to be seen. Castille is at 50 points, and previously on the TIE Advanced, he was 54 points. So a bit of a points reduction across the board. In fact, if we go all the way down to the bottom, down to the Tempest Squadron Pilot, Tempest Squadron Pilot used to be 42 points, it's 41 points. Okay, so not much of a difference there. Just a very subtle point reduction in the top end, apart from Darth Vader, and a very subtle point increase in the bottom end. Makes perfect sense, not really a lot to talk about in the TIE Advanced apart from Vader. Again, in the comment section, guys, let's start building lists. Darth Vader is one of those things that I'm very keen to build around. He now reminds me a lot of Darth Vader in Legion, where you have a very, very expensive commander. But he's also very, very impactful. I don't think that's going to change. I don't think 70 points is enough to stop him from seeing play. It just is going to demand a bit more creativity from us in list building. Moving down to the TIE Interceptor, Suntafel used to be 54 points, now he's 52, so a slight reduction in cost. Plus the 2 modifications is now built into this ship. You don't have to take the extra titles and all that extra fluff anymore. It's all there already. I just want to comment on Suntafel because a lot of comments I'm getting are really, really down on him. They think FFG's ruined him or something like that. I think Suntafel is seriously, in 2nd edition, a force to be reckoned with. The fact of the matter is he can net himself free focus tokens if you fly well. He basically has push the limit built into him. Plus, on top of that, you can give him another talent. Yeah, I don't really understand all the hate he's getting right now. I think people are seriously undervaluing things that happen inside your bullseye firing arc. The difference is now Suntafel can't just fly away and turtle and avoid getting shot over and over again. He must engage. But pretty much everything else we're seeing has that same kind of effect. Nothing gets to fly away and do whatever it wants for an entire game. It's just not how things go. But the TIE Interceptor, out of everything we've been looking at, is what I wanted to look at the most, because I'm just going to bring up the Alpha Squadron Pilot here. Used to be 36 points, now 34. Okay, so actually not much of a points reduction there. One of the issues with the TIE Interceptor in 1st edition was the lower initiative or pilot school pilots back in the day never saw play, because basically this platform demands that you have high pilot skills or initiative in 2nd edition. So I'm a bit disappointed. I thought what was going to happen is Suntafel would start at the same point cost, and in 1st edition we'd see this kind of curve, and in 2nd edition we'd see this kind of curve, where those low initiative pilots just become much, much, much cheaper. Not the case. At least those low initiative pilots get access to 2 modifications that might hopefully help them see a bit of relevance. Maybe they could use up that spare 6 points and get a 5-off build happening. Who knows? We'll see what happens moving forward. But yeah, Suntafel, absolutely. Very keen to see what this guy can do on the table. Moving on to the TIE Reaper. Let's bring up Major Vermeil here. Major Vermeil was previously 52 points, so a 3-point reduction, which is interesting considering it's a new ship. Scarif base pilot previously 44 points, now down to 41 points. So bit of a cost reduction across the board. I think the reason this may have occurred is, again, because FFG are trying to push this kind of commander archetype where you have one very powerful crew, and the TIE Reaper represents a good platform to do it. I think overall the Lambda class shuttle is the better support role, maybe a little bit better at protecting your commander, while the Reaper is actually better at attacking itself. So if you want to use like more aggressive commanders, like Admiral Sloan or something like that, I can see that working on the TIE Reaper. Just a subtle point reduction across the board. Nothing else too crazy to talk about here. Let's move on to the TIE Aggressor, and apart from anything else, it got a gunner slot. So that's pretty cool. All the other slots remain the same. Lieutenant Castille, let's bring you up here. Previously 44 points, 36 points. Okay, so pretty big reduction there. Yeah, wow, 8 points down. That's really cool. The Sinar Specialist, on the other hand, used to be 34 points, so relatively less, but still a points reduction. It's only down to 30 points. Well, yeah, let's not beat around the bush. I mean, this platform really didn't see that much play in first edition. Now it's cheaper across the board. It's got a gunner slot. I don't know how relevant gunner's going to be on this. It's kind of like the Y-Wing in the regard that the gunner is only really going to help you with whatever turret you take it with. So you need like an efficient enough combo that works with that, but could be interesting, yeah. I don't think this really changes in my mind the way we built this ship out, but yeah, could be interesting. Let's move on to the TIE Punisher. Again, we have a gunner slot added to the ship. In fact, I'm going to sound like a broken record because a lot of Imperial ships got the gunner slot. That was kind of a surprise from the day. Redline, down from 54 points to 44 points. Wow, okay. And the Cutlass, Squadron Pilot, down from 42 points to 36 points. Okay, massive reduction for the TIE Punisher. Fair enough. It was probably the ship that, if first edition was to continue at the point it was, would probably demand the next fix, because it's really underperforming in first edition. Again, same as the TIE Aggressor. Let's just reduce the points overall, give it a gunner slot, which is really cool. Cool thing about gunners on bombing platforms is they're able to take skilled bombardier. Apart from that, there's no reverse firing arcs, there's no turrets, so pretty much the only thing it can do, apart from Fifth Brother, that is. Alright, the TIE Defender, and this is a pretty big deal because the TIE Defender got a serious upgrade. When we were looking through all the stat upgrades, the dial, the action bar, all that kind of stuff, big pluses on this ship, and the cheapest TIE Defender we have now, the Delta Squadron Pilot, is 72 points. And in case any of you were concerned because you only get 2 TIE Defenders in the conversion pack, the reason for that is you just simply cannot field 3 of them anymore. It's one of those things that got people rather salty, and I can understand, like, if you like the 3 TIE Defender kind of build. And when I first saw that, I thought, let's just wait for the points costing, because I have a feeling that they might not be able to do what they always did. In first edition, the TIE Defender was essentially fixed in a way that brought it down to a third of your list. So they made it cost the relative 66 points, or less than that anyway. And that was the way they fixed it. It was underperforming, but now they've readjusted the ship. They've given it all these actions, the free evade built in, all that kind of stuff. It looks like a way more powerful platform, and as a result, you cannot field 3 of them anymore. You can field 2 with a cheaper ship or anything like that, but yeah, that's the reason. And I think this is fair enough. Delta Squadron Pilot was 60 points, now it's 72, so that's a pretty decent increase in the points cost. And Colonel Vessery has actually been pushed up to the most expensive version of the platform. Look, considering he gets free target locks, I can understand the apprehension. He was one of the more powerful TIE Defenders in first edition. But what's interesting is Countess Ryad is actually the second most expensive, but Rex Labrath is Initiative 5, and he cost 84 points. Now again, that's still not dirt cheap, but he's less expensive than 2 other pilots that cost more than him. Yeah, that seems like a pretty decent push. Now, I still rate Vessery and Ryad's ability over Rex Labrath, but I would have thought that the Initiative 5 would really push him along a bit more and at least be the same cost as Colonel Vessery. So that's a bit of a surprise. Look, none of them are cheap, so it's very academic, the stuff I'm talking about here. But it is worth noting that, yeah, sometimes with the initiative, it doesn't just mean higher initiative is higher cost. They've messed around with that a bit based on the pilot abilities. Okay, moving on to the humble TIE Fighter, and hello, the Academy Pilot's 23 points. In the previous video, I mentioned the Bandit Squadron pilot, the Z95 on the Rebel Squadron, is the cheapest one at 23 points. cheaper than the Academy pilot. I was wrong. The Academy pilot is 23, which actually contradicts something that FFGs have said in previous interviews. They were saying that the TIE Fighter has been untouched. It remains at the 24-point cost on the low end. Look, 23 points, 24 points. It's pretty academic when we're talking about those kind of numbers. But it is worth noting it isn't quite what FFG said it was going to be. So just worth pointing that out. Conversely, on the higher end of the spectrum, TIE Fighters have become a little bit more expensive. Howl Runner, previously 36 points, has gone up to 40 points, which seems all right. Iden Versio, despite the fact she is at a lower initiative, at initiative 4, is also at 40 points. What's particularly interesting about all the Inferno Squadron pilots is we're looking at lists that kind of use all of them. So when we see something like Iden Versio go up that high, it does sort of throw a spanner in the works in terms of the more ambitious versions of that list. I will say Iden Versio has a fantastic ability and it's going to be fantastic in swarms. But yeah, Iden Versio, who were the other ones? Del Miko, Gideon Hask, and Sayan Miranda. Well, they all cost 30 points. So if we were to take all 4 of them, it would be 130 points. Still seems good. Still got 70 points to spend on a big support chip or something like that. You could go alongside a Lambda-class shuttle or a TIE Reaper. Could be good, could be good. Maybe Wampa and a bunch of Academy pilots. Also worth noting as well, Wampa is 30 points. He is an Initiative 1 pilot, so that ability costs 7 points. Now, it's a good ability, don't get me wrong. I think you're going to be able to get a lot more firepower on the board for that 7 points. But again, we're falling out of the habit here with this design of going very linear with our point structure, and I'm very grateful to see that. Despite the fact that Wampa cost more than several pilots that have a higher initiative than him, I think that's fair enough. I think that pilot ability is worth investing 7 points on. Let's continue moving on. Let's go over the TIE Phantom. Whisper is at 52 points. Whisper previously costed 64 points. Now, the main reason the TIE Phantom has gotten such a big point reduction is because it has lost 1 red die. However, interestingly enough, it did not, as I predicted, lose the crew slot. I thought crew is clearly something we do not want to see on aces because it's being a bit more of a utility upgrade. It was in first edition, but even now, there's Seasoned Navigator, which is essentially stay on target. And the fact of the matter is you can put Seasoned Navigator on the TIE Phantom. Ooh, that's good. That's good. I mean, it stings less because they don't have the 4 red dice anymore. But look, that's fair enough. It always annoyed me how the TIE Phantoms were significantly more expensive. I felt like their 4 red dice was a key part of their identity in the way you flew them, but that shouldn't be the case. The fact that you're cloaking and sort of second-guessing your opponent, that should be the key part that you look at. And yeah, significant points reduction. Going down from 52 from 64 points. It's a 9-point reduction on Whisper. Seems good. The platform was good in first edition. The fact of the matter is that you now decloak in initiative order alongside bombing and all that stuff. It actually, in my mind, makes cloaking a little bit better because Whisper is at initiative 5. So you're able to work around your opponent's bombing. I think the Phantom, just by the rules change, has gotten a nice improvement, which is good to see. Whisper and Echo, again, around the same point cost. Also worth noting the low end of the TIE Phantom spectrum, the IMDAR test pilot. Previously, our lowest costed pilot was 50 points, now it's 44. Again, think the point reduction is just scaling depending on where on the spectrum we're talking about. So that seems fair enough. I think the focus will still be around Whisper and Echo when building with this ship, but worth pointing out nonetheless, you can field more of them more cheaply. Okay, and the TIE Bomber. Captain Jonas, oddly enough, is now our most expensive pilot. Previously, our most expensive pilot was Tomax Bren at 48 points. Captain Jonas has gone all the way down to 36 points, so a pretty significant reduction on the cost of this. Even on the low end, we have a slight point reduction. Used to be 32 points, now it's 28 points. Seems really good. We've added the gunner slot. We've added a bomb slot. Now we can take the bomblet generator on this. Actually, just while we're talking about that, when I mentioned that previously in videos, people were saying the bomblet generator is clearly terrible on the TIE Bomber because it can't regen with its shields. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I don't think you necessarily have to regen the bomblet generator for it to be good. It is something you can do. Yep, it's there. It's got 2 bomb slots. I mean, arguably, you want to just take 2 different kind of bombs that you can get more value out of, but it is worth knowing that you can do that. Also, we've retained 2 missile slots, so you can still take barrage rockets. So it seems really, really good. Again, a slight points reduction across the board on a ship that needed a bit of help. Added another bomb, added a gunner slot, taken nothing away. It is worth noting that there is no TIE shuttle anymore. At least not for the time being. Maybe they'll introduce that later on. But I just don't think they will. I think now that we have the TIE Reaper, we don't need the TIE Bomber to have crew slots anymore. I think that's the design that just has too much overlap, so it makes sense not to have it in the game anymore. The TIE Striker has had a gunner and a bomb slot added. Now, we knew the bomb slot was coming. FFG mentioned this before. But the gunner slot's a nice surprise. Countdown has now become our most expensive pilot. Previously 40 points. He now cost 44 points. Okay, fair enough. Also, Duchess is only 42 points. And considering Duchess is still at Initiative 5, that could be pretty cool. I mean, look, let's be honest. Countdown and Pure Sabak were both the preferred pilots on this when it came to any kind of meta play. So maybe this is just a reflection of where FFG want this to be heading. Duchess is a more desirable ace because she's cheaper. Sounds good to me. Also worth noting, while the higher end of the spectrum has been reduced on this platform, the lower end has not. Planetary Sentinel, as opposed to the old Imperial Trainee, which was the lowest costed pilot, remains at 34 points. There is no change here. Right, the Decimator. Now, both me and Justin are very, very excited about this. The platform looks really, really cool. And indeed, if we have a look at all the pilots here, Rear Admiral Shenru, previously 92 points, has gone down to 88 points. And considering his ability is a little bit hard to use, that seems fair enough. I don't think the platform has suffered that much. It can't take engine upgrades anymore. That seems fairly significant. Although the fact of the matter is it's had a gunner added to it. And I think out of all the ships on the Empire, it's going to be the ship that wants gunner the most. I think Veteran Turret Gunner is going to have a very, very happy home on this ship. We move over to Captain Boykin. What were you? Captain Boykin. Captain Boykin has stayed exactly at the same cost at 84 points. And if we have a look at Patrol Leader, it has stayed the same at 80 points. So really not much going on here. Just Rear Admiral Shenru has been made a little bit less powerful with his ability, but a little bit cheaper at the same time. Just an 8-point ban between Patrol Leader and Rear Admiral Shenru. Seems fair enough. Really, really powerful platform. I don't think the loss of engine upgrades is going to hurt it that much. And the fact that it can take gunner and take multiple shots is going to be a lot of fun. I'm pretty confident that the archetype list with a Decimator and a really powerful small ship is still going to exist in 2nd edition. I look at the Decimator and I don't think any of the power has been taken away. Yeah, I know it can't always shoot 360 and that kind of stuff, but I just don't feel like it's hurt the platform that much. I feel like it's still in a very good place. All right, having a look at the unique upgrades. Both the configurations for the Alpha Class Starwing, as previously mentioned, are now free, which just basically increases the point reduction on that platform. Sounds good. Now, moving on to our crew, we can see in the double figures is basically all of these characters that act as commander. Admiral Sloane, Sienna Ree, Grand Moff Tarkin, Moff Jared, and Emperor Palpatine. Also, all the Force users are quite expensive as well. Seven Sister, Vader, and the Grand Inquisitor. Now, they all come with pretty decent abilities, but they also come with the added bonus of giving any ship a Force token, which is really, really cool. Emperor Palpatine actually has had a slight point reduction. He used to be 16 points, now he's 13 points. Plus, you can actually make Palpatine's ability more powerful if you pair him up with another Force-using crew member. For example, if you were going to put him on the Decimator with Fifth Brother, you then have 2 Force tokens which can be used on any platform in your squad. Palpatine has now gone back to a place where he can react to any dice roll without having to guess in advance. Plus, he can do it on multiple dice rolls. Now, I know he only interacts with Force tokens, but there's a lot more going on here. I don't think it's as cut and dry as people seem to think. But back on the subject of these commanders, I don't feel like any of these are overcosted at all. There's a lot of great stuff going on. What really strikes me as very aggressively costed is Grand Moff Tarkin at 10 points. I feel like this ability is just solid. It's well worth 10 points in my eyes. I felt looking at the card previously, it could have easily been like around 15 points and that would not have been an issue. Moff Jared is 12 points, and I think the main reason he's a little bit more expensive is he has a bit more broader application. He's going to work great alongside TIE Swarms, and I guess so is Grand Moff Tarkin, but Grand Moff Tarkin needs a bit more build around to make him work. So that seems good. I have no real complaints about any of these. I think Darth Vader at 14 points might be a little bit too much. But again, I don't really understand fully the implications of giving ships Force tokens, and I think that is going to give it great value and flexibility overall. So I'm not going to complain about any of these Force users. Director Krennic has become much cheaper, and the fact of the matter is he only costs 5 points and give any ship he's on the target lock is really, really solid. TIE Reapers and Lambdas are going to love him. Plus, there was a lot of hubbub around using Director Krennic alongside Grand Moff Tarkin in order to enable Tarkin to be used on any platform that doesn't already have a target lock. And for 15 points, you get a nice amount of value. Now, the only issue there is Director Krennic isn't really so much as a support role for swarms. Director Krennic really wants to really make one ship very powerful, where Grand Moff Tarkin is arguably better with swarms, although honestly, if you're flying them alongside 2 aces, I still think giving out 2 target locks is still pretty fantastic. Yeah, it'd be fantastic if you had like 6 TIE fighters all get a target lock at once, but it's not bad on 2 aces. The fact of the matter is you can use up all your actions on your aces to double reposition and then give them target locks. Seems pretty good to me. I just want to repeat this. Crew Commander. This is something which is clearly being really pushed by FFG, and I'm really glad to see it. I think it's an awesome archetype, and I'm glad it's more than just Palpatine now. Having a look at these gunners, BT1's 2 points. Seems pretty good. And Fifth Brother is 12 points. Fifth Brother at 12 points. Let's just bring him up here. Fifth Brother is essentially a slightly better calculation, apart from the fact that it gives your ship a Force token. 12 points feels like a lot. I really thought it'd be cheaper than that. I mean, look, he's no more expensive than any other Force user the Empire can take. It just doesn't seem like a really powerful ability. I need convincing on this one. Look, I guess he is giving your ship crits. There's not a lot of passive abilities that can give your ship crits without having to use some kind of resource. The fact that he fuels himself is always a good thing. Yeah, I look at a lot of these Force users and think, oh, it feels like a lot of points, but at the same time, there's a lot of flexibility built into them with those tokens. I'm not going to comment too much on things I don't really understand just yet, but it is worth pointing out. Ruthless is only 1 point, and when I previously spoke about Ruthless, I actually made an error. You actually have to damage your own ships in order to use that ability. I wasn't feeling very well when I was doing all that, and I made a few errors there. Yeah, look, for 1 point, I think that's fair enough. There's a lot of risk and reward built into this card already. We don't need to have it costing a lot. And 1 point feels very fair. Just 2 titles, ST321 and Dauntless, both at 6 points. Dauntless was previously 4 points, but ST321 was indeed 6 points in first edition. And ST321 is very interesting. It basically allows you to power out free target locks on your Lambda class shuttle. That could be very good with Grand Moff Tarkin. Maybe FFG designed that with it in mind, but the fact of the matter is it means the Lambda class shuttle can potentially defend itself a lot better. And 6 points does not feel too expensive for that ability. I don't think it's the kind of thing that you'd be very excited to put on your list. I think it's the kind of thing that you probably cut early. But yeah, good ability nonetheless. And yeah, lots of cool stuff for the Empire. No real surprises amongst all this in my opinion. I think the only thing which I expected to be a little bit more expensive was those crew commanders. But at the same time, I understand why FFG want to make them costed competitively. It just ensures that they do see play. And we sort of lean into those archetypes that they're really aiming to get on the table, which is a good thing. It should lead to a lot of fun gameplay. In the meantime, guys, stay tuned. We'll talk about the Scum faction in the next video. Like and subscribe, like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Reddit, and I will catch you guys later.